This is the basics of background check video. Hi, I'm Bill Clanton, attorney and consumer protection lawyer. I've helped hundreds of people deal with inaccurate credit reporting, debt collection harassment, and other consumer-related matters. At the end of this video, you'll understand why a background check is a credit report and the obligation background checking companies have to make sure that the reporting is accurate, and what you can do if you have lost an opportunity because of an inaccurate background check. So a background check is a credit report. Really? Yeah, a background check, well, a credit report, or a consumer report as it's called in the law, is any third-party communication about the character, general reputation, personal characteristics, or mode of living of a person that's used for a particular purpose. Particular purposes include, but are not limited to, obtaining credit, insurance, employment, government benefits, licenses, legitimate business purposes, and or initiated by the consumer. So when you apply for a job and you tell them they can check your background, there's a little checkbox that you may or may not have realized you checked, then that gives them the ability to pull your background check, and that background check is a credit report. So why is that important? Well, that means that the background checks are regulated by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The Fair Credit Reporting Act says that companies that engage in credit reporting, the background check companies, have to have reasonable procedures to ensure the maximum possible accuracy of their credit reports. So, if a company doesn't take steps to make sure their reports are accurate, then they've acted in violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. That can be a real big deal. So, how do you get a copy of your credit report? Well, an interesting, this is real interesting. An interesting thing about employment, employers, and the Fair Credit Reporting Act is there are things called adverse actions. What's an adverse action? Losing your job, not getting a job, not getting a transfer, not getting a promotion. So if an employer takes an adverse action in reliance on a credit report, before they take that adverse action, they have to give you a copy of the background check or credit report that they used to make that decision. Once they take that adverse action, they have to give you a copy of that credit report or background check that they used in making that decision. So if you're not going to get a job, or you're going to get laid off, not get a promotion, or get turned down for a transfer, then you should know in advance, because you should have received your credit report or background check before that decision is made. This doesn't always happen. Employers don't always play by the rules. Surprise, surprise. But sometimes they do. And that's one way you'll know in advance of something happening. But if you don't get your credit report, if you didn't get it from your employer and you lost your job or didn't get a job or one of the other adverse actions, then you can still get a copy of your credit report. There's a list of credit reporting agencies. I've got it right here. If you can read that, let me see here. If you can read that, great. But you can also Google this list. Google your employer and find out who they use for a background checking company, or if you know who they use, you can Google the name of it and call them up, or you can contact me. I'd be happy to give you this list and ask for your credit report. If they've run a credit report on you, or ask your background check. If they've run a background check on you in the last year, then they should give it to you. Some of them go back 2 years, a lot of them 1 year. Once you've got your credit report, what should you look for? What are some common errors? Mismatched people. You have to know what a mismatched person is. Let's say there's 2 John Smiths. Well, let's say there's 2,000 or 2 million John Smiths. But for this example, let's say there's 2 John Smiths. One lives on Elm Street, one lives on Maple Street. Well, if John Smith on Elm Street is a multiple felon and John Smith on Maple Street has never been arrested, then John Smith on Maple Street applies for a job, then the background check company accidentally matches John Smith on Elm Street, then John Smith on Maple Street won't get the job because he'll have been mismatched with somebody. There are all kinds of credit reporting errors that could cause things to appear on your background check. Mixed files, mismatched information. Some of the other common errors are, well, it comes to criminal cases. A lot of employers just do background checks for criminal cases. Well, if your case is misclassified as a felon or felony, then an employer might think they're dealing with a felon and not somebody who's been accused of a misdemeanor. That can cause you to miss out on a number of jobs. The criminal courts are extremely busy, and oftentimes their case files lack information, or that information doesn't make it into databases, or the databases are simply missing information, or the databases are not current. For example, if you were accused of a crime and you later had that accusation expunged, or you completed your punishment for a crime and you had that non-disclosed, then if it shows up on a background check after that, well, the background check company had an old database from after the alleged crime was committed to before the expunction or sealing, and then they will still report that information that should not be reported to a potential employer, which could cause you to lose out on a job. So there are a number of issues and a number of ways that background checking companies misreport information about people. They cause them to lose jobs. If you're dealing with a situation and want some help, give me a call, 210-226-0800. And thanks for watching.